This is the concluding part of Is Marriage for Everyone, or Why Marriage is Not for Everyone. Sit back and enjoy the concluding part of the message. As always, my name is HeSmart and I'm your host here. God bless you.
Don't get me wrong. I am not wishing for anyone not to get married. I am not wishing for anyone to remain single. But I have come to terms that marriage is actually not for everybody. Because if you're not matured enough, you can't survive in marriage. If you don't know what marriage is all about, you can't survive in it. If you're not prepared to compromise your ego, if you're not prepared to put your title below your feet in your home and know that the person you are married to is now part and parcel of you, you are no longer his boss or her boss. That's why you see some people are married for 15, 20 years, they are not happy. The woman is wishing every day she never got into such a marriage because the people are not supposed to marry themselves in the first place. Marriage can never be for you, or is not meant to be for you, if you cannot love the other person unconditionally, irrespective of the disparity in your academic qualifications, irrespective of the disparity in your economic situations or backgrounds. If you can't love your wife or your husband unconditionally, despite whether you are earning more money than him, despite the fact that he comes from a very poor family background than yours, if you can't love that person unconditionally, then you will have no reason to get into that person's life in the first place. Otherwise, it becomes a curse on your head, because you have put a fire at the middle of someone's heart that is constantly burning and brimming every day. Why do you have to get into that? Why do you have to hold yourself accountable for what is happening to somebody else? Because you were not supposed to be there in the first place. Think before you know whether marriage is actually for you. In marriage, your partner comes first above everything and everyone else. This simply means you must forsake everything and everyone else for your spouse. Oh yes, no apologies to that. Your spouse comes first above everything else. If that is not the case with you, my dear man, you are marrying that woman for the wrong reason. Dear woman, you are marrying that man for a wrong reason. It means that you must forsake everything else for your spouse. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean, and I'm not trying to imply, that you will turn away from your friends and family members. That's not what I'm saying. Get me right, please. But your spouse comes first above them all. That is how God intended it. That is how God wants it to be. That is how it ought to be and should be if marriage has to be what it is meant to be in the first place. If you can't afford to stick by this rule, then marriage is certainly not for you. It means you are in it just for the title of being married. Marriage is a good thing. That is the truth, which is why God initiated it in the first place. It takes a man who loves himself beyond any description to love his wife the same way. And it takes a woman also who loves herself beyond any description to love her husband the same way. Any man or woman who cannot lay down his or her life for his or her family is not worthy to be a husband or a father. And likewise a woman. Such a woman cannot be a wife. Such a woman cannot be a mother. Marriage comes with maturity, regardless of your age. That's what we are talking about. Now, from what I have shared with you, from what I have said, now look at yourself. Are you supposed to have gotten married to that lady based on the few things I have said? Are you supposed to have gotten married to that lady? Because you don't marry a woman for the sake of marrying a woman, only to keep her in perpetual hurt and distress for the rest of her life. If you are not in a position to guarantee the woman love, irrespective of everything she does, you are not guaranteeing her that you're going to be there always for her, that you are going to love her unconditionally, that you are going to forsake friends, family members, and stick by her above everything else, then you are marrying her selfishly. You are being wicked by marrying her. And for you, that woman, did you marry that man because of that money he has? Because of his position? And you're not ready to stoop down to do what a wife should do and be what a wife should be. Instead, the house help is doing all that a mother, a wife, and a woman should do in that house. And the man is groaning and grumbling, complaining to friends and family members without end. And he's stuck with you because he does not fancy divorce. He does not want to push you out and go for another woman, and you are stuck there not giving the man fulfillment. You are not supposed to be in marriage. Marriage is supposed to bring fulfillment. People should fully understand the meaning and purpose for marriage before taking the step to get married. Once you understand it is an endless free way with no exit, that is how God intended it. God did not fashion divorce for us as human beings. It was never the intention and purpose of God for marriage that you marry today, after 1 year or 2 or 5 or 7 or 10 years, you name it, and you now have a reason to say, I'm not interested in marrying this man anymore. I'm not interested in marrying this woman anymore. It was never God's plan for marriage. You see, once you understand that God's purpose for marriage is for you to get into it, stick in it, die with the man you are married with, die with the woman you are married to, till death do you part. That's the vow you took. That's the oath we swore the day we got married. Whether you are married in the mosque, in the church, or at the registry, or traditionally, you took an oath to love that woman, to love that man unconditionally, that in good and bad time, that you were going to get married, you are going to remain in the marriage, with or without a child. The day you got married, you did not say, if the woman does not bear a child, or if the woman does not conceive and give you a child within a considerable number of years, that you were going to push her out of the house. You didn't give that condition. How come after 5 years, for one reason, the woman hadn't conceived yet, and then she has become a candidate for divorce? Marriage was not meant for you, or that woman was not meant for you in the first place. You only use her as a tool, and now after sucking the water in that orange, you want to throw away the empty sulk. No. Did you marry that man with the hope that he will continue to swim in money the way he was when you got married to him? Did you give him condition that the day his finances gets low or comes down, or something bad happens, maybe he loses his job or his business collapses, and then you will dump him? Did you give that condition in the first day when you were getting married to him? If no, then you have an answer before our Creator at the end of your life here on earth. Because for everything we do, we are accountable one day. When you realize the fact that we are not just passing through this world, this is a phase. Because the day, your eternity, where you are going to spend your next life, the journey begins the day you are born. And so marriage is part of that journey that will lead you to either going to heaven or going to hell. And what you do also in your marriage accounts for the things that God will judge you with and judge you for. That's the reason why, if you are not ready to abide by the rules of marriage, you don't even embark on the journey in the first place. Marriage is not for everyone, I have realized, because it depends on what the individual is seeking for himself or for herself. Whether they are confident or insecure, and whether they value family over their career or business. All these things count and matter a lot. May I remind you, dear listeners, as I want to wind up, that marriage is hard work. If you want your marriage to remain and last a lifetime, to that death do you part, that oath you took, that vow you took the day you were getting married to that woman. You need to work hard. You need to work to keep that marriage going. A couple should sit down and talk about what their expectations of each other and the marriage are before they head to the church, before you head to the mosque to go and get married, or before you get to the registrar to say, I do. Yes, till death do us part. You should sit down and think about the consequences of the vow, the oath you are taking. Can you remain faithful, for instance? Do you want children, for instance? Of course, most of us in Africa, we do want children out of our marriages. How are things going to work financially? Did you sit down to discuss it before you decided you were going into marriage? Did you talk about what the relationship with your both families is going to be after you are married? Did you talk about it? Where do you want to see your marriage in 4, 5, 10, 15 years down the line after you are married? Did you talk about it? And then, for you, the Muslim lady or woman, find out the man you are intending to get married, will he be getting a second wife after he is married to you? Or is he married with another wife already or other wives? Have you asked what will your entrance into the family look like before agreeing to marry, all in the name of getting married, answering Mrs. So and so? Did you find out what was the promise made to you by that man? And that man, do you remember the oath you took? You made a promise. I was going to marry you and you alone. What is the reason for the change of mind? You're thinking of the second wife. Was it in the plan from the beginning? Yes, it's permissible by the Islamic rights to marry as much as 4, I understand. Forgive me if my quote is not very correct. But then, what were the promises you made the day you were getting married? These things are important. Because today, yes, you may think you don't owe that woman any explanation. You don't owe her any right to discuss certain things. That's what you would think. But there is someone above up there that will hold you accountable for every action you take, for every word that proceeds out of your mouth. You will be judged. That's what I understand, and that is the truth. Remember, I told us last week that you can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. That means everything that is the truth remains the truth. No one can change it. If you are a liar, God will judge you. That is the truth. Nobody can change it. You can't do anything against it. If you say something today and tomorrow you change your mind, you have become a liar, God will judge you. That is the truth. No one can do anything against it. And so, if you lured that man into marrying you and you get into the marriage and you are doing another thing, then you have become a liar. You have become you have become someone that is a deceiver. God will judge you for it. If we bear at the back of our mind that we are responsible for everything that goes wrong when we go against what we have said, eventually we will do things differently. So when you have to ask yourself those questions. You need to ask yourself those questions. It is better to live and serve God with your life than to get in and out of marriage. If you know you are getting into marriage and you are waiting to take the exit door by way of divorce, why do you get married in the first place? Granted that things can get very tough and rough in a marriage, that yes, you have no option than to want to file out. But did anyone tell you that it's going to be all rosy in the first place? Didn't you ask those who were already in marriage before? That marriage is not full of beds of roses. There are thorns there as well. They say love is blind. When you get into marriage, marriage will open your eyes. Marriage will open your eyes. My dear listeners, God is against divorce. He is. He never intended that you will marry, whether you are married one or two, for those that your religion permits you to, that tomorrow you should dump one for another. God never planned it that way. You were supposed to stay in your marriage and remain in your marriage. However, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being single for the rest of your life, provided you can stay away completely from sexual sin. That is it. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you cannot stay away from sexual sin, then you need to get your own wife or husband in order to stay away from sexual sin. There have been many, especially women, who have lived as single so they could serve humanity. Take, for example, Amika Mikal, the devoted missionary to India, is one example. Mary Slessor, who buried herself like a seed in the deadly environment of the West African coast, is another example. And of course, we all know and have heard of the most recent of them all, Mother Teresa. This was a woman who opened her arms to the diseased and dying of India and most remote parts of the world. There are many of them. But if people realize that you can live a fulfilled life by remaining single, then people will take their time and look at divorce again. It's not an option. It's never an option that is permitted by God. That's why you don't rush into marriage. Get into marriage when you are convinced that yes, you want to marry, and that marriage is for you, and that the one you want to get into is actually your own. Dear listeners, at the end of the day, the decision is yours to make. But whether you marry or not is between you and God. If God has given you the gift of remaining single, you'll be thoroughly convinced in your heart that doing so is God's best for you and God's work. Though you will still face temptations and experience loneliness, especially in our African setting. But then you will know that marriage is not God's solution for you. You will walk in a grace that enables you to live as a single man or woman. My dear listeners, are you supposed to be married where you are right now? The person you are thinking and planning and sweating to get married to, are you supposed to marry that person? And you, that you are out there, not yet married, not even thinking of the one to marry to yet, do you think marriage suits you? Because there are some people that certainly marriage is not for. People who get bored after spending 2-3 months together with a woman, they feel, I'm getting bored with this woman every day. And they want someone else out there. Marriage is certainly not for such people. Or you are bored with a man telling you what to do and what not to do in the house as a woman because of your career, because of your economic position. Then marriage is not for you. Because, as I said, marriage has set rules. The rules are not set by any human being. The rules are set by God. So if marriage is meant for you, and if you are supposed to be in marriage, then you must be prepared to stick by the set rules. That's simple as that.
Well, that's it for now. I hope you did enjoy the message. Is marriage for everyone, or why marriage is not for everyone? Don't forget, our program is called the Puzzle Family Affairs Program, brought to you by Africa Connect Radio and Television Online. And as always, I'm your host, and my name is HeSmart. And see you next week for another broadcast. Have a great week ahead of you. Bye.